Good day. You're listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is CJ Miller, your host. And today's episode is a rewind episode where I go back and review a recent interview with Rabbi Rami Shapiro called Art, Presence, and Spiritual Independence. I want to share some thoughts. What stuck with me? What stuck with me about this conversation? I'll tell you what, it was so loaded with information. When you have someone as educated as the rabbi about all the different religions, it's fascinating. And I really encourage you to go back and listen to the whole episode because my journey has been one of melding what I would call religious truths with science, both together, putting them together. And Rabbi Rami has really investigated all the different faiths, and he understands the commonality and the differences. And that conversation was incredible. And so there's so many things I could pull out. There's so many things I'd like to talk about, and I could talk a lot about. But I want to talk about something that really impressed me. First, I want to tell my listeners, I always get a little saddened. I notice that when I interview reverends or rabbis, there's the listenership goes down a bit. And I think that we have this block, or a lot of us spiritual seekers have a block. We've either been burned by religion or hurt by religion, and so we shut down on anything. But anything religious, that is. But I think that that's making a mistake. I think that's kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Let me tell you why. Religion has been around as long as man has walked this earth. Humans have walked this earth, I should say. And some form of religion, and so much of their traditions and their thinking has been rooted in basic, and this is science, the scientific way that humans operate. Our need for things like traditions, our need for ritual, that religion has so many truths in there, but you kind of have to unpack them. And the secret is not becoming too ego identified with any one, not becoming too, this is the only way. And Rabbi Shapiro talked about that. He talked about that was one of the reasons he really believes that you should be a spiritual independent, an independent spiritual person. And I love that. Once again, he has this wonderful book called The Spiritually Independent. If you want to just really clarify some of the facts about different faiths and how they all align with certain truths. So don't do that. Don't do that if you can help it. There is truth in everything. Be open to everything. So I love interviewing people like this. This man is a wealth of wisdom. So first, I want to tell you, he mentioned something that so many people don't even realize. The Bible is a set of stories that were collected, different papers. But what people don't realize is that there were many, many other booklets written. There were many other gospels written. And he brings this up in our interview of the Gospel of Thomas. And he says, you need to listen to this because there's lines in there that aren't mentioned in this curated package called the Bible. So I want you to understand something because there's a lot of people like the Bible is the word of God. And I would like to say the Bible is some of the words of God. Some of the words of God, because somebody curated those words. And we continue to do that today. You'll find that today when someone comes out and we have books that are banned. I believe that God's spirit, creative intelligence is operating through us all the time and sharing messages with us all the time. And I believe that it didn't stop with the Bible and it doesn't stop with this podcast. It keeps going. And so people try to ban words that are wise and thoughtful. And that same thing happened with the Bible. If you don't realize this, you should. There were a lot of other gospels written. I went and ordered the book. I have just started reading about all these different books that have been left out, including the Gospel of Thomas, because he says something. He wants to show me, the rabbi wanted to show me how interpretation, let's think about that, how interpretation changes the meaning. Have you ever had someone call you and say something and you interpret it totally different from what they meant? That's what happens. And so he explains how in the Gospel of Thomas, he says, anyone who can figure out what I'm saying will not taste death. Thomas quotes Jesus as saying, anyone who can figure out what I'm saying will not taste death. Well, in the curated works, that has been changed. To anyone who believes in Jesus will gain eternal life. Now, very close, right? Very close. But what does that mean? Anyone who believes in Jesus. That doesn't mean you have to believe, you have to say, I believe that Jesus existed or I believe in Jesus. That's a totally different thing than anyone who believes in what Jesus said or anyone who follows and understands, better yet, anyone who follows and truly understands the words of Jesus will gain eternal life. So I want you to be a lifelong learner. And if you're following this channel, you probably are. But I want you to be willing to look for the truth in everything because there is truth in everything. And I think that's a perfect example. But I want to talk about this. He also said this, Gospel of Thomas, and this stuck with me. This stuck with me because it resonates with so much of what I teach at my spiritual art retreats. He said, when you make the two one, then you will enter the kingdom. So he quoted Jesus as saying, and this is also in the Bible, when you make the two one, then you will enter the kingdom. What does that mean? When you make two one? This is what I think it means, and this is why it's stuck with me. When I teach artists at my retreat, is I teach them to let go of what I call their little selves. This is the best way for me to explain it because I say little CJ, to try to let go of that ego-oriented little self and stand in presence. And what I try to teach them, and I hope you'll get this, is that there is this field all around us, this creative intelligence. I call it the field of creative intelligence. Everything is part of God. Everything is part of spirit. Everything. That means you, that means the sky, the earth, the planets, the galaxy, and the space in between. This is what's so interesting. So many people, so many religious people claim that God is all powerful. But then they don't attribute what that means. If God is all powerful, then God is in everything. Everything. God is in you, in me, in people of color, in people with different sexual identities, in people of different faiths. You cannot have an all-powerful God that is only in certain things. You cannot have an all-powerful God that is only in certain things. So what I try to teach my artists is when you stand in front of the easel, if you try to let go of all the judgment and the control and the fear, and you simply stand in presence, your presence aligns with the creative field, with God. When you align your presence with God, manifestation happens. Creativity happens. It just does. That's why I love abstracts, because it's an easy way to enter. Abstraction as you paint is an easy way to see how that creative field outputs when it flies through you. And when you stand in presence, when the two, you realize and recognize that you are part of the field. It's not that you aren't. Let me tell you that right now, if you're listening to this, it's not that you're not part of God right now. It's that you have to recognize it and step back and align with it and trust that it will guide you to the best painting, to the best creative expression, to answers to your problems. And it does. If you just sit there and say, I give this up, that's what it means by I surrender this to God. It doesn't mean I bow down and give up like, oh, well, I surrender. It's not that kind of surrender. It's I trust. I trust that this field, when I align with it, when two become one, that I enter the kingdom of magic, of creation, of eternalness. You become and have the same attributes as everything around you. That's a big thing, right? I mean, this is a big thing to get out of this conversation. And, once little CJ starts thinking about things, synchronicity just keeps popping up. What is synchronicity? Synchronicity is when I start seeing the message appear in other vehicles. So I'm very big on this. I'm very big on the importance of letting go of your fear when you stand in front of the easel, letting go of your judgment, letting go of your need to create something that you think is valuable or to prove your worth. Those are all things you don't need to hold on to. Just be present. Feel the ink, feel the paintbrush, feel the acrylic, feel the paper. Just be present to it. Let yourself align and follow the instinct. Follow what feels good. Look for the next good thing. So last night, I oftentimes listen to Eckhart Tolle. If you follow me, you know that I think he is one of our greatest gifts. He's also a very wise person. He's another, what I'd call a mystic, someone that sees beyond the limitations of dogma, that sees that there's all many paths to spirit, to connection. And I was listening to this. You can go find it online. It's called Eckhart Tolle Reveals the Secret to Fulfillment Through Stillness and Action. And I'm listening, and it's sort of like I'm in and out of that sleep. And suddenly he says something, and I just had to freeze the tape, and I had to rewind it and listen to it again and again and again. And he's talking about that we have an essence that has nothing to do with our form. This is best word paraphrase I can do. I tried to type it down. If some of our attention is in the formless essence, we can do things without creating more havoc and suffering for ourselves. So he's saying, if our attention is in the formless, in presence, in spirit, we can do things without creating more havoc. That's kind of a negative way. I would say we can do lovely, wonderful things. We can do lovely, wonderful things. We can create things that lead us ahead, that lead humanity ahead, that lead the planet ahead. Does that make sense? If we only go into doing without the rootedness in the eternal dimension, which he calls stillness, I call it presence, what you do is you can lose yourself. If you don't do that, if you don't align, you lose yourself in the physical realm. So it's sort of like you take your creation lightly, right? When you're painting, take it lightly. Hit the paint. Don't associate your value with it. Don't associate anything strong with it. Just let it flow and let it happen. So he says, so the foundation for all doing is conscious being. The foundation for all doing. So what he's saying is before you actually do, you always align with being. It's just what I teach on my retreats. That's why we do movement exercises. That's why we do meditation. That's why we do grounding. I ask you to step into beingness. I want you to be. I want you to be there, be present, be in the moment, be connected, and feel your connection to everything around you. And then the magic happens. I call it magic. I know I'm being dramatic, but and then creation happens. So he says it's like building the house. You always have to be on the foundation of being. So when two become one. So today, you must always remember that it's most important your consciousness, your attitude, your openness to love, being in that space of love, and then do. And we all do this, right? I get up, I jump up before I even take care of myself and feed myself. I'm doing chores. I'm going to do that laundry. I'm going to do a load of laundry. I'm going to do something physical. I'm going to clean the kitchen without aligning myself. That's why spiritual practice is so important. I really recommend you taking moments all throughout the day where you just align. It's in that stillness. Do you hear that stillness? This is what Eckhart Tolle talks about. It's in that stillness where you align. It's not something you do intellectually. Here's the challenge. Eckhart Tolle talks about this. You can't think yourself in. I know. We want to. Little Chris wants to. I want to think myself into. I can't. I have to give up thinking. I give up thinking. I enter the body. I enter presence. I enter my feeling space. And a lot of times that's just by letting go of the thinking, letting go of the control, letting go of the goals, right? When your effort softens and presence becomes primary, there is a coherence that appears. You are coherent with the field of creative intelligence. And magic happens. So today, this week, that is what I got from this wonderful discussion. There's so much more. I wish I could pull out other things from this interview, and I might, because the rabbi was so enlightening in so many different angles. He has such a fresh way of looking at life, and I wish I could talk about more, but I really dug into this little chunk because it's really what I talk about. It's my purpose is to remind people, to teach my students, to teach my friends, how do you do that, and to remind myself, and trust me, this is an ongoing practice. I am not there. I will never be there. I'm on the journey of going there. I will never be there. And you, likewise with you. Don't be hard on yourself when you have a day that you step out of presence. Don't be hard on yourself when you lose your temper or when you step out of that connection, when you're driving, when the weather gets you down, or when you just feel blue. Just let it go. Just relax. Relax and let it happen. And it will. It will. You will slide right back into presence. Okay? So I love this quote. It's what's interesting and why I ask you not to give up um, looking for answers in religious texts is because there's truth in there. There's truth in the words of Jesus. And I think a lot of people are saying, let's go back to the actual words of Jesus and not try to get caught up in the interpretations or the curated version. Okay? So remember, it's like if I curate an art show, no matter how good I am and how open-minded I am, I'm going to pick people that resonate with me. And those artists are all going to be similar to what I like. And there might be an artist that's really out there that's creative and wild that maybe I just don't like. I'm trying to think of something I don't like, but maybe I just don't like a form of, I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like glitter. I've never been a big fan of glitter. Well, that doesn't mean there's not beautiful things created with glitter in paintings. The glitter is not a beautiful tool, but suddenly you have a curated show where there's no glitter because little CJ doesn't like it. Same thing with the Bible. It's curated. So when someone tells you this is the truth, you must believe in this, it's a curated version. There is some truth in it. Hold it lightly. Listen to it and be open to it. Listen to it. Now, I encourage you. I encourage you to go back and listen to my interview with the rabbi. It's long. Do it while you're painting. This is a great thing to do, by the way. Sit in front of the easel, or doodling, let yourself just draw and doodle and listen to the words. Be in the space of receiving, and you will get something. Maybe you'll align with this, make two, when you make two one, but maybe something else will jump out. He is a wealth of knowledge. So, my next interview is with a wonderful poetry writer, artist, J.K. Kennedy. Jody, she's written this wonderful book called Clumsy Beauty, Poems for Hearing the I Love You in Everything. She definitely knows how to enter into the field of creative intelligence, and these poems have moved me. So that will be out shortly. Keep following me. Make sure you share this podcast with your friends. Go up there and like it. Write some review notes about rate it if you would for me. That will help me get more followers. It's important. I love it. I love sharing this message. Mostly, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you, right? I try to always be honest with you. I do this podcast for me. I know. It's not because I do want to help people and share, but mostly I want to learn. I love this. I love uncovering all these truths. I love waking up and thinking in the middle of the night and seeing how there's synchronicity between a rabbi and Eckhart Tolle and all the religions, how there's synchronicity in science and how science works. I just love seeing it all connected. So go out there, be a lifelong learner, and I will see you shortly on the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Oh, and by the way, my book, Spiritual Parables, is out there. And so I want to share one other thing that's just really amazing. As I was batting this idea back and forth, I recognized that one of my parables speaks about this alignment so clearly and so directly. And so I'm going to post this parable on my website, and you can go download it if you haven't purchased the book. Okay, if you haven't purchased the book, you can download this parable about the charioteer. Okay, it's the last parable, I think, in my book. Let me see. It's called The Charioteer Had a Dream, and it's about how do we align with this creative field of intelligence. And so it's just a 2-page parable. And the book is available on Amazon. You can go download it. Spiritual Parable. And what it is, I'm going to explain this one more time. It's not dogma. It's not Christianity. It's not Hinduism. It's not any Jewish tradition. It is the new spiritual way. It's the way of seeing the world as a spiritually independent person. And I wrote these parables that will be receivable as a spiritually independent person. So go out there, be creative, be a spiritual artist, and make sure that you align with the field of creative intelligence. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.